main way that white plays the stonewall with the bishop on g2 is to put on knight on h3. And this game is an example of exactly that against Radoslav Wojtaszek from the World Rapid Championship in 2015 in Berlin. So, as he's not an e4 player, I decided to go e6 on move 1. c4, f5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2. As you can see, I was still doing c6 at this point. Generally, I would recommend d5 here. Anyway, c6, and he went knight d2. Just kind of a clever move order. Since whenever black goes d5, if you want to put the knight on h3, you should put one knight on d2 and the other on h3, since then the other knight can come to f3, then maybe the other one to f4, or the bishop to f4, then if the knight goes to f4, you can go to d3, and that's sort of where you want the knights as white in this opening. I think actually in well, not in the same tournament, but in the subsequent World Blitz Championship, I had the same position against Gelfand, and he went knight h3, and I went for this d6 that, as we discussed earlier, Seaman had taught me when I was little. Then Gelfand went knight c3, and just over the board, I decided that since the knight might be misplaced on c3, not getting too close to the e5 square, that now I could lose the tempo and play d5. And it's a little bit of the same approach again, like I can even do this and be fine, which is kind of how I approach the stonewall, at least. And anyway, Wojtaszek did knight d2, which is quite reasonable. And I said in this case c6. It's not really recommended. It's a bit of a waste of time, and it's been shown that if black goes bishop d6 without the pawn on c6, then you might be worried about c5, but usually it's not too dangerous. You go bishop e7, you have b6, sometimes knight c6 is coming, so you always have a bit of counterplay there. Anyway, the game went knight h3, bishop d6, queen c2. Don't really know why he didn't castle, but he probably had good reasons. Knight f3. Yes, he doesn't even want to give me knight f3 immediately. Then dc, which makes some sense since the queen is probably very well placed on c2. Anyway, connecting the rooks and so on. And here I went for a5. And I think that is really a bit too much. I think at this moment I felt like I could basically walk on water in the stonewall since I'd had such good results, and I just wanted to once again show him like I can do a5. My position is solid. I'm not worried at all. But in all seriousness, I don't think it's too great. He castled. I went knight e4, bishop f4. Sorry, knight f4, queen e7, knight d3, bishop d7. At this point, there's not much I could do anyway against the plan of exchanging the bishops, so I decided just to bring the bishop around. But I'm actually kind of proud of what I did for the rest of the game, which is I was constantly looking for resources for counterplay, which is one of the things about the Stonewall and these slightly dubious positions. Like, even if your position is worse, then there are always some possibilities for counterplay. Especially if you sense that your opponent does not want to complicate the game, if you sense that your opponent is not somebody who would take tactical opportunity that you might give that allows some counterplay. And what happened in the game is he took on d6, which I was not unhappy to see. I take with the knight, and I sort of force him to make a decision on what to do with the pawn. Does he want? He doesn't want cd5, because then I go ed. And it feels like my pawn structure has improved a bit. It's important to note both in this Queen's Gambit, Queen's Indian, Carlsbad's, well, all these structures that, and even Stonewall, that whenever you haven't played b6 yet, you should almost always go ed5. That's almost always an improvement of the structure. And so here, that is definitely what I would have done. Anyway, he decided to go c5. b3 is also perfectly possible, or a move like knight e5, protecting the pawn on c4. But let's say b3, I go knight d7, I play bishop h5 next. Whenever he goes knight e5, I chop it off, then knight f7, trying to exchange it again. And I'm making the argument that I'm extremely solid, and the bishop on g2 isn't much better than the one I have on e8. So it just goes to show that, especially when you play for this plan with bishop d7, bishop e8, it's very, very solid. Your structure is intact, and even if things go a bit wrong, your position is usually sort of playable, at least. Anyway, Wojtaszek went for a more ambitious plan, closing the position. Queen c3, very useful move, eyeing the e5 square once again. Knight d7, and here we went a4, which is a very decent move. His plan is very simple, as we see in the game. He's gonna go rook b1, he's gonna go b4, and unless I want to sit with the knight on d8 protecting b7 the whole game, I gotta do something. So here there's really only one active move, and that is g5. And as a Stonewall player, you learn quickly that you should not be afraid to go g5. Once you've gone f5, your king is a bit weakened anyway, so why not push it further? It gains space, it may gain you some control over the center, and it's in general one of the main plans. Rook b1. I go g4, following it up. Now the idea, of course, is if knight d2, I go e5. And it's not so much about the evaluation. I suspect it's a bit better for white still, like an objective evaluation. But what you can feel in the game is that you're gaining counterplay, you're gaining life for your pieces. There's something happening on the queen side, something in the center, maybe something on the king side. It's just a fight, and especially in quicker games, that's something, yeah, something I love to see. Anyway, he went knight e5, and d5. If he goes knight d5, then I take, and I go f4. I wouldn't say too great still, but at least I get time for bishop g6 next, and who knows what kind of counterplay I can drum up. h4, h5, h5, h4 coming. Practically speaking, it doesn't look too bad. I can even give up a5, since whenever I go rook f7 protecting b7, it's going to take a lot of time for him to create something over here. And while he has the safer king, I think it's pretty clear that my bishop will now be more active than his. But anyway, he went d5, which is obviously a lot more logical, seeing as the knight on d3 is a little more active than the one on d7. And here I felt again there was one opportunity, which is to go f4. I remember I was I was really in a good mood during this game. I was just trying to play as actively as possible, create as many problems as I could, and f4 is the kind of opportunity that you should at least look at. It's the one you shouldn't miss. So what I was thinking at this point is that knight on d3 is his strongest piece, or at least strongest minor piece. It's holding all of these squares together, so I need to undermine it. Can I undermine it at the moment? No. It cannot be attacked by any piece. And I could go bishop g6, trying to play f4 next, but that felt a bit slow. White can, for instance, go rook b to c1, and then it's hard to see what I've got. f4, you can simply take, and otherwise I run the danger of getting slowly run over. Knight f4 could come at any moment. Just doesn't look too promising. But of course, I'd seen all that, and I quite quickly played f4. Now the idea is, if gf, I go bishop g6, and he cannot protect all of his key points at the same time, mainly f4 and c5. I'm gonna trade the knight, and I'm gonna win one of these pawns. So a plausible continuation would be e3, take the knight, queen takes d3, knight takes c5, and I don't know, queen d1 protecting a4 and attacking g4, but I could go queen h4. I have plans of rook f5 to h5. It looks like he might have a better pawn structure and a safer king, but there are some good points to my position. The knight might be stronger than the bishop. My pawns in the center might have their say at some point. All in all, it's really double-edged, and that's really, I think, what we're shooting for in this opening after all. Notice once again how different the position becomes from the earlier games. I've shown how the apparently very static pawn structure in the center can so suddenly change. And I remember, as a Stonewall player, I found that very, very fascinating. Anyway, he decided that his knight was a bit too good to be exchanged, so he went knight f4 instead, which I think is very reasonable. I went knight c5, and he went queen a3. Rook f7, probably the best move, protecting stuff here. And he went h3. And it's starting to look, well, just a little bit dicey. If I take, he goes bishop h3. And yeah, it looks like he has serious positional pressure here. So again, I felt that I needed to resort to tactics. I went knight d7. He went queen c3 back. If he exchanges, I take on e5 later on. Should be fine. Also, it's worth noting, let's say in case of an exchange, knight d3. I think I do in fact not take on h3, which I guess also is fine, but I can also just go bishop g6. If he takes, then I take. And his position has kind of fallen apart. I'm attacking both g4 and d3, winning a pawn. But naturally, he's too strong a player to do something like that. And with the presumably safer king, there's no reason why he should exchange queens. Once again, here, exchanging on h3 doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so I gotta continue playing tactically. Queen g5. He went knight d3, protecting the pawn, but now I take, and I go rook e7. And I've regrouped my pieces quite nicely. And once again, bishop g6 is coming. And let me remind you again, this was a rapid game, I think 15 plus 10. It's not so easy to figure all of these details out on the fly. Anyway, he went for the most natural move. I don't know what else to suggest either. King h2 maybe, but still I go bishop g6, if f4, queen h5 maybe. Doesn't look clear at all. But he went b4, bishop g6, ba. I finally get rid of this knight. E d3, knight e5. No f4 obviously, because queen g3 is there. He went d4. And as you can see, it's simply become a very unclear fight at this point. Feels like White should still be doing pretty well with the safer king, but he won't have the safer king for long in case I can go h5, h4, or even attack f2 in some lines. And yeah, eventually I won the game. f6 happened, f4 happened, queen h6. I'll just go through this quickly since it was all such a mess. Rook g7, not particularly good. Rook e2, I felt like I had to go back. Rook e1, knight d6. Still, practically speaking, it's unclear. At many moments, I think a6 was a possibility for him, but it didn't really take it. Rook e5, knight c4, rook e2. And I decided I didn't want a draw, or maybe I decided also I didn't want to allow a6 after knight goes back. Queen f6. Queen f6, king g2, h5. Queen f3, queen h6. Okay, I'll spare you the rest of the game because it's just a total total mess. But I think the point is still one that I've made earlier, that the Stonewall can give you so many different types of positions, strategic fights, tactical fights, and one thing I think this game shows, one thing that the Stonewall forces you to do is to think. And it forces you to think in a non-standard way from early on in the game, which is something I love, and I think a lot of people love it. Like, it's one of the reasons why you play chess, that you wanna think. You don't wanna play the same way every game. You want fresh positions. You want to show that you're better than your opponent in a massive fight. And I can think of no better opening than the Stonewall to get such position. But I would again implore you to not play c6 on move 4. You should go d5 there to keep some more flexibility. But again, these were early days for me in Stonewall, and Stonewall has never been so much about the theory for me. It's been about concept of getting your opponent to think early on.